On today's episode of Colts Talk presented by PrizePicks, could the most controversial quarterback in America end up on the Indianapolis Colts? Why would they be interested? We need to get into Brendan Sorsby and his current situation as it stands. The Texas Tech quarterback, who hasn't even played for Texas Tech, is in one heck of a situation with gambling. And yet he still may end up in the NFL in 2026. Yeah, this is a really weird situation with Sorsby as of right now. We'll get into what's going on with him, his NCAA eligibility, team fit and value for the Colts for the draft, the supplemental draft. That's going to be the big point of discussion in today's show. If you don't know what the supplemental draft is, if you don't know who Brendan Sorsby is, come on, let's get into it. Just a reminder before we really dig into the Sorsby stuff, we are doing Colts videos all off season long. Whether they are signing, trading, cutting, waiving, anything with the Colts, you'll get all the latest information for free when you subscribe to Colts Talk. Today, that includes a discussion around Brendan Sorsby. We'll call him the Texas Tech quarterback. He has not played for Texas Tech yet. He was one of the biggest names in the college football transfer portal. Huge. One of the top quarterbacks. It's actually a really great quarterback class. Sorsby was one of them. Transferred to Texas Tech back in January. That was his decision. And then just a few weeks ago, it was announced that he was entering a residential treatment program for gambling addiction. Look, there's a lot of debate around what exactly all happened or is going on. And then there's some confirmed facts, and there's still an investigation going on by the NCAA for Brendan Sorsby, but seems like he at the least wanted to get ahead of this and get this problem, semi-solved by going to the gambling addiction residential treatment program. Look, this is a big arm, big quarterback, right? 6'3", good size there, proved himself very well this past season for Cincinnati, actually the past 2 years at Cincinnati. He is a product of the transfer portal twice over, was at Indiana, Cincinnati, and then now was set to go to Texas Tech. Look, big QB, big arm. Scouts love that. NFL teams love that. Obviously, college football teams love that. So Sorsby has a reputation. He has the stats, but now he has a current ongoing situation that is not good. And again, the NCAA continues to investigate Brendan Sorsby and exactly what was done when, how much, how many bets were made, where, why, all that going on. What we can tell you, the biggest of all of it, you're going to read, we've read little things like, at a Reds game, he bet on this many pitches on this app. At this baseball game, he bet on, look, the biggest no-no in all of this, the one thing that somebody will cite to you, will talk to you about in the Brendan Sorsby situation is when he was an Indiana Hoosier, not playing, but when he was on the team, a part of the team, he gambled on Indiana football. Obviously, a gigantic no-no. That is like a written rule by the NCAA that you cannot do that. So that is like the biggest thing going on as far as Sorsby goes. Why the Colts? Why are the Colts involved in the conversation here? Because Sorsby now looks to the supplemental draft, which is an extension of the NFL draft. It's almost a late NFL draft. Some call it the detention draft because you got in trouble. Now you're in that draft. Tom Downey, our NFL draft expert here at Chat Sports, also hosts our Cowboy show. We were talking to him, like, where could Sorsby end up? What do you think? We weren't even talking Colts. He just said, yeah, Falcons, Colts, or Buccaneers, I think are great fits. They're the type of teams that may really poke around this if Sorsby enters the supplemental draft, which, again, if you're confused there, we will break that down. So the Colts, Buccaneers, Falcons might be interested in Sorsby. Are you interested in Brendan Sorsby? What do you think? Should the Colts go for Brendan Sorsby if he ends up in the supplemental draft? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Look, essentially, do you want Brendan Sorsby here? Y for yes, N for no. I'm going to tell you what I think in just a second. But first, today's show is presented by PrizePicks. And right now, when you get the PrizePicks app, you get America's #1 sports picks app, because it's the best place to win cash while watching sports. Let's talk about lineups for a second. Obviously, that's how you win the cash, so it's pretty important. You just pick more or less on a few player stats, lock in your lineup. Baseball fans, I'm talking to you. You can do hits, home runs, strikeouts. Also, basketball fans, you're watching the playoffs right now, go with points, rebounds, assists, blocks, or three-pointers. lineup tonight for producer Aiden Parise and myself that we've got for you guys. More on Donovan Mitchell points, 29.5. We went more there. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, we paired points, rebounds, assists, going more on 44.5. Points, rebounds, and assists. Yeah, going more there. If you like that lineup or any lineup that we've ever showed here on Colts Talk, you can get more like them when you follow either myself at Billy_Beebe or at CSAP on PrizePicks, just like you'd follow us on Twitter or Facebook or any other social media platform, except now you have the opportunity with a single click to copy lineups, and you can do the same with your friends. Follow them just like you would on social media, but on PrizePicks. New user offer for you guys. Download the PrizePicks app today with the link in the comment section and the description. Then use code HMA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code HMA to get $50 in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Why Sorsby? Why the Colts? I cannot hit on the idea enough that this is a first or second round pick in 2027, but he's available now, or will be if that's how it all shakes out. Again, his eligibility still being talked about and whatnot. So I don't think the Colts have their quarterback of the future, right? That's my personal opinion. I'm not hating on Daniel Jones. This isn't a Daniel Jones issue. There's a reason Daniel Jones got a 2-year extension from the Indianapolis Colts. Absolutely. Win now guy on a win now team. You take a look. That's your quarterback one, right? I know a lot of you guys like Riley Leonard. I don't know that I see the guy that's the quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts in 5 years when I look at this group. With Richardson, who, man, that situation keeps going. I know you guys love Riley Leonard. And then again, Daniel Jones is on a 2-year deal as of right now. So if Sorsby's available in the supplemental draft, Colts have to kind of consider it, right? They got to take a look at a guy that they would look at in 2027 if he was in that draft, but now he's available just a little bit earlier. So, as I said, Sorsby's eligibility battle continues, if not done by June 30th. The NFL Supplemental Draft is his likely move. And if you have watched this video and you keep wondering yourself either what is the Supplemental Draft or how does it work in general, it's an interesting animal for the Colts because and the NFL in general. It doesn't happen every year, and it revolves around a lot of picks and players and whatnot that are special situations, just like Sorsby. So again, if he doesn't win his eligibility battle to stay in college, he has not been officially kicked out of college yet. But if that all does not go well, if he ends up losing, he will probably pivot and go to the supplemental draft. What is the supplemental draft? Running through it real quick. The Athletic's Dane Brugler. The supplemental draft, which is held each summer, was installed in 1977 as an option for draft-eligible players who did not declare for the regular NFL draft. So essentially still, you had to have been able to go to the draft, but you didn't, and now something happened, so now you need to get drafted. Normally, players who declare for the supplemental draft do so because of unexpected eligibility issues in college. The supplemental draft is not televised and usually takes about 10 minutes. Again, you may get no names, you may get 2 names, you may get 3 names, you may have dozens of teams interested, you may have 2 teams interested. Continues, the draft order is divided into 3 groups. Teams with 6 or fewer wins, the rest of the non-playoff teams, then the 14 playoff teams. So there's groupings as well. You don't just go like Raiders down to 32 if you want them. Then one of the most important parts of the NFL supplemental draft. The order of each group is randomly selected. If a team is interested in drafting a prospect, they place a bid on that player in a certain round. If multiple teams submit bids on a player in the same round, the team picking first in the order is awarded the player. Once a team drafts a player in the supplemental draft, it must forfeit its pick in the following NFL draft. For example, in 2019, when the Cardinals selected defensive back Jalen Thompson with a 5th-round pick in the supplemental draft, they forfeited a 5th-round pick in the 2020 NFL draft. So, if Sorsby loses his eligibility, here's where we're at. Loses his eligibility, goes to the supplemental draft. Colts want him. You know, the grouping thing, different teams will have their first shot at him. Essentially, the Colts say, hey, we were going to use a 3rd-round pick or 2nd-round pick possibly on him in 2027. Let's offer a bid with a 5th-round pick. They get him. They just lose their 5th-round pick in 2027. Essentially, they spent that on Brendan Sorsby. Again, you can reread those rules about the other teams that are involved and the groupings and bidding. But essentially, in the supplemental draft, if you want a player, you try and outbid other teams with a future draft pick. Essentially, it's almost like trading Sorsby for a future blank. And you do have to beat out the other teams, which I think is an interesting part of it. Now, my question for you guys. If the Colts did draft Brendan Sorsby, I'm going to give you one word. What would be your one-word reaction to Indy taking Sorsby in the supplemental draft? You get one word. Let us know down below. Why would you do this? The Brendan Sorsby selection here. I'm not going either way, like, oh, got to have him. I think he's the best. I think he's the quarterback of the future. I think we've given you info on him. We've given you info on the situation. I think in a weird way, the supplemental draft could be a way to take advantage of this situation. I don't even know if lottery ticket is the right word, because you do have to give up a draft pick for him. However, instead of waiting till 2027 and, other teams are involved and everybody's trying to get a look at him and you've got to, his stock may rise this season in college football. Instead, the Colts may just try and take advantage of a situation, give a round or two less of a draft pick and get their quarterback of the future. We don't know. Are the NFL teams really high on Brendan Sorsby and just waiting one more year to take advantage of him? Possible. I know we've talked about in the office here, if it weren't for NIL, Sorsby would have went out in 2026 to go make money. And projected first, second, third, it is a little bit of a mixed bag, a little bit of a Ty Simpson situation where it's like, could he be a third rounder? Maybe. Could he just be the right team likes him so he's a second or first rounder? Absolutely as well. Now, why would you pass? Just as I said, you're going to be rushed here to try and take advantage. You really don't know everything that's happened with the gambling situation, right? That's a bad look in general. A PR nightmare bringing in a guy that was caught for gambling on his own team, which you can't do, obviously, at any level. They don't want you doing at any level. And then just the facts are, like, you haven't had your people meeting with him. You haven't had your people necessarily going to Texas Tech games or Cincinnati games or getting that one-on-one with Sorsby, having him visit Indy. You haven't had any of that. That process has not happened. So essentially, you would take the risk of just saying, we like the raw skill and what we've seen on tape enough. Here's a 3rd, 4th rounder bid. Let's see if we come away with Brendan Sorsby, a controversial quarterback. No doubt about it. We're going to talk about it on Colts Talk if we hear anything more about Indy being involved. I think it kind of makes sense. They don't necessarily have their quarterback of the future, as I said, and yet we do need to keep an eye on the Sorsby situation. Not done there either. We'll keep you up to date. Thanks for checking in with us here on Colts Talk.